I think anybody for their moment of diagnosis, it's always it's a date you remember. It's a moment in time. In my case, I had made this great plan for 1999. The millennium thing was really huge. So I had taken really good care of myself and I did all these little health things and to do that. But along the way, I had this lump in my breast. And, everybody wasn't particularly worried about it, but it seemed to grow. So I kind of casually went through this whole thing of getting a mammogram. My mammograms were completely normal. So I'm like, it's not a big deal. So sort of life goes on. And part of my millennial plan was to get my divorce finalized. It had been sort of dragging on for a number of years. So in September, it was like that was time to do that. So my divorce became final. And then literally over the next few days after that, one of my doctors had said, gee, I'm not really happy with how things sort of look. In the mammograms, I'd had 3 that were completely normal, but you could feel this lump, and it was about the size of a golf ball by the time we really got going. So they did an ultrasound, and that was the moment of truth, if you will. So the diagnosis came 10 days after I was divorced. Wasn't exactly what I had planned. So I was initially diagnosed with a ductal invasive carcinoma, um, and they weren't really sure. Also in my day, if you will, time goes by here. So 15, 16 years ago, it was very unheard of to not do. People did surgery first, and then they would follow up with your chemo or radiation or whatever. Now it's about 50-50, they try to shrink them. So in my case, they wanted to go in and take it out. And I remember telling the doctor who did my surgery, I've read a lot, I've been around cancer, it seems a lot for different work reasons. Just take it off, like I don't need it. I'm 40, I just turned 43. I've had my kiddos, just get rid of it. And she's like, oh, no, 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 no. We're going to just do a lumpectomy and it's going to be great. So I did go in, I went in for a lumpectomy, and they did the lumpectomy. And I said, I gave her permission again. At the time, if you get in there and you don't like whatever, just take it off, don't worry about it. So after the surgery, you kind of look to see, do I have one or do I not? So she came in, she was like, oh, I feel so good about this. I got clean margins and it's all going to be good. And I kept asking her, what if it comes back pathologically and it's not clean? She goes, oh, Meredith, it's going to be just fine, but we'll talk in 3 or 4 days. So 3 or 4 days later, I went back to see her, and she's this fabulous surgeon, and she's a very straightforward, she's hysterical, but she's a very straight shooter. The woman wouldn't look me in the eye. And I was sort of looking at her, and she avoided me like crazy. And we sort of sat down, and she said, you know how you kept asking me the what if, and the what if, and the what if, and I kept saying, it's looking good, it's all good, just, this is going to be, you're going to continue on. So she said, and at that point, she just kind of zoomed in and looked at me, and the two of us, we sort of got down and really just kind of we locked eyes. And she said, this isn't a great thing at all. It's not clean, and I found also lobular cancer. Lobular cancer occurs frequently if it's in one breast. It tends to be in the other breast as well. And I said, so that means we're doing a double. And she says, yep, we're doing a double. And I said, well, I don't need any reconstruction. She goes, yeah, you need to rethink that. She goes, you're young and all of that. So she goes, I've taken the opportunity to make an appointment for you at an hour with a plastic surgeon. And I'm like, well, this is a lot to absorb. But I did go through with it. And ultimately, after everything, I ended up having a double mastectomy. And a lot of women end up doing what I call the 1-2 punch, because they just don't know exactly what your cancer is until you can really get in there and see pathologically and actually what comes back as a result. So in the end of about a 2-month period, I went from having female parts to ending them or starting my millennium with 0 female parts, not a single one left by the end of the year. I had an amazing gift of a wonderful medical team. I really made them talk to each other, which now they do a lot more easily today than they used to. You know how one doctor tells you one thing and a doctor tells you another thing, and you go, what do I do? And you want to get these 2 doctors in a room and make them fight it out and make a decision, and you tell me, well, it doesn't work like that. But I did get people to talk. So in the end, I chose to do a tram flap reconstruction. So it's 100% me, 100% my parts. I'm not a thin person, so I had parts to give. So I had a process that took about 12 hours on the operating table, where they did a double mastectomy, a skin-saving double mastectomy, and then there was a different team that came in. So I had a team working on my upper body. They cut your nipples off, and then they scoop out your breast tissue, if you will, sort of like working an upside down ice cream cone, and you scoop out your breast tissue, and then that team goes away and another team comes in and they cut you from hip to hip and take out, so you get the tummy tuck out of this, and they take some of your belly fat and your skin. And so their skin is going to actually be used to replace your nipples. And for whatever reason, I had always worn a 2-piece suit, so I had a tan tummy. So it worked out really well, because a lot of people have, when their nipple skin is replaced, it's sort of not tan. So I had tan, right off from the beginning, I had tan nipples. So anyway, they then take your stomach fat and fill in your ice cream cone. But after 12 hours laying on the table, you don't realize how much of your boob is under your arms. So, I have great underarm boobs, a little flat here, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. They did a great job. And then we had a lot of fun going through the nipple process, which hysterical stories to do that. That was sort of another, in 2 years, I had 17 full surgeries of procedures and stuff happen.